Good day everybody, I'm Benito Wainwright and congratulations! We made it through another week of unprecedented COVID-19 lockdown. Not long now folks until we can stop walking in the road, delete all those pointless running apps and stop saying, I can hear you, but I can't see you during every Skype call. In the meantime, here's the next thrilling instalment of Biology from the Bedroom. Today's guest is Mr. Josh Arbon, a behavioural ecologist from the University of Exeter. Josh completed his bachelor's degree in zoology at the University of Bristol before undertaking a master's by research which saw him travel to South Africa to study the intricate social behaviours of dwarf mongooses. For his PhD research, he's investigating the social learning capabilities of jackdaws, a common UK corvid species. A corvid researcher, eh? I'm sure there's a joke in there somewhere. Anyway, I'm sure it'll come to me eventually. In the meantime, without further ado, let's beam potential science leader of the future, Josh Arbon, into my bedroom. Hello Josh, how are you?
Hi Benito, I'm grand. I like what you've done with the place.
Yes, no, it is lovely, isn't it? How are you coping with the current pandemic? Is everything going okay for you?
Yeah, everything's okay. It's just about, filling the days and keeping myself from going insane, but I'm managing so far at least.
Yes, it's a very difficult time, isn't it? In fact, if you were to summarise this whole situation in one word, what would that word be, Josh?
It's unprecedented, isn't it?
Yes, actually, I completely agree. I hadn't thought of that one. I thought that is you're very articulate, Josh, very articulate.
I do try.
Now, let's start off with the mongooses. So these are the smallest members of the mongoose family, and what makes them interesting is that they're cooperative breeders, aren't they? So do you want to tell us a little bit about what you studied? Because you actually studied a wild population, which may seem quite challenging. So how do you study wild populations of mongooses?
Dwarf mongooses are Africa's smallest carnivores, and they are unbelievably cute, and in my opinion, far superior to meerkats. But they, studying a wild population can be really tough. What you have to do is painstakingly, over the course of weeks, if not months, learn to habituate them to your presence. And when I say habituate, you basically end up following them around and throwing small bits of hard-boiled egg at them until they learn to associate the food with you and that they know that you're not a threat. And at that point, you can start to understand more about their behaviour.
Exactly. Now, so what were you precisely investigating then with these mongooses?
So I was investigating something called sentinel behaviour. So everyone will probably be more familiar with that in meerkats, but lots of other species do it as well. So at any one point, one or more individuals will stop foraging, stop finding food, and they'll go and put themselves up on a rock or a bush or a tree and look out for danger. And they are what at that point is called the sentinel. And I was interested in what affects sentinel behaviour and how individuals change their contribution based on the context that they're in. So how hungry are they? What is the current scenario regarding danger? How dangerous is the environment at that point in time? And the context, the social context. So are there other individuals around, or are you more alone?
But also, alongside that, when you were in Africa, you were also interested in the poo of these mongooses.
Yes.
Is that right?
It is.
Why? What can that tell us about social behaviour? Or is this just crap research, Josh?
Oh, but no. At points, it definitely felt like crap research, Benito. I won't lie, but it. No, so poo is really, really useful for many reasons, but I was using poo to try and work out how related individuals are to each other. And that might sound a bit silly, but knowing how individuals are related to each other is really tightly related to what they might do on each other's behalf and how they might act cooperatively. And it turns out that it's very difficult to get DNA out of wild mongooses. You need lots of licenses, lots of permits. You need to trap them or take their blood or manage to snip a hair sample.
They probably wouldn't enjoy it anyway.
No, they would they would hate that. But what you can do is if you get a nice bit of fresh poo, as the mongoose squeezes out that poo, some of the cells from the inside of its gut and colon end up on the outside of that poo. So if you grab that poo while it's before the cells have degraded, you can store it in a solution and freeze it, and then you can extract the DNA that way, and you can get DNA from a mongoose without having to catch it. Thankfully, mongooses are regular. They're like clockwork, and when they get up in the morning, the first thing they do is have a poo. It's brilliant. And they're very scent-orientated animals. And once one mongoose poos, other mongooses will wander up to it, sniff it, and they'll also do a poo. So you can clean up 10, 15 poos in one sitting in a morning.
Really? Oh, goodness me. Well, I've learnt something today. Who knew that a mongoose's morning routine was so similar to mine? Anyway.
There
you go. So, let's talk about your current research now then. So you've moved away from mongooses.
Yeah.
And on to jackdaws, which
have.
are far more common, they're a common species of corvid in the UK.
Indeed.
So how complex is jackdaw social behaviour then? Are there any similarities between their social life and that of the mongooses?
They actually operate reasonably different social systems. So jackdaws are socially monogamous, so when they pair up with another individual, they breed in pairs, and when they pair up early in their life, the majority of birds will stay with that partner for the rest of their entire life, and that could be anywhere up over 10, 15 years. And they will always breed with that individual. But aside from that, they will they go around and they will forage and they'll socialise and hang out in groups of 10, 15, 20, and you see in winter roosts, you see flocks of up to thousands of birds. The mongooses, on the other hand, have what I would describe as a more simple society. The group is the group, and the membership of that group doesn't change very often. Sometimes they'll come across another group and they'll have a little fight, but there's not much membership change. So they'll know who their family and their group are, and they're pretty set with that. And there's a lot more certainty over who that is.
And you're specifically looking at you're studying social learning, isn't that right? Between individuals. So what kind of things does a jackdaw need to learn from another jackdaw?
Well, yeah, that's a cracking question. So jackdaws are incredibly social, and one of the brilliant things about having so many other individuals around is it's lots of opportunities to gather information. It can be really, really risky, especially for a jackdaw out in the wild and out in a dangerous environment, say like a human environment, like a town, a city, a farm, to go around learning about things on your own. How does a jackdaw know what a car is? Without if it tried to learn what a car was by interacting with it firsthand, it's a pretty good way to just get run over. But if you see other jackdaws flying away from that car and squawking at that car, you can learn that car is dangerous, or that person is dangerous, or that food is dangerous, whatever it might be, without having to actually take that risk yourself. And I think this is one of the reasons that jackdaws have been so successful moving into urban environments. You'll happily find them in as I've said, in farms, in towns, in cities, in parks.
Yes, their lack of ability to make rookie errors.
Hey.
No, sorry. Very good.
Haven't heard that one before.
Yeah. So how do they learn from one another? Because, obviously they can't speak, but, they do use vocal communications to an extent, but how...
Yes,
what are the mechanisms by which they acquire this information? Is basically what I'm asking.
So yeah, you're right. One of them will be vocal. So one study we've been able to show that jackdaws can learn about dangerous people from each other, and that was done with an experiment by a colleague of mine, Vic Lee, and that was all done vocally. So if you were to play a call of a jackdaw, so they have an alarm call which is sort of this and it's quite aggressive vocalization. So, yeah, you go. If you play that call and show a jackdaw, associate that with a person, they will learn that person is dangerous. Whereas if you play them just like a normal chatter call, they kind of just go check, 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 just kind of chat to each other, then that person won't be associated with danger.
So these jackdaws can actually recognise human faces then? It must be quite tough for you as a researcher who's studying these things, because they'll be looking up in their tree and thinking, oh bloody hell, here's Josh again, going to torment us.
That couldn't be more true. It's a really sad thing to have to admit, but my study birds hate me.
Right.
And they don't like anyone who works on the project. And we are all, our cards are marked in that respect. If we go to one of our field sites, especially during breeding season, we walk under one of our nest boxes, we'll just get this sort of volley of abuse from the trees. And it's quite sad to see. Then we go and work, we've got one site on a farm, and the farm workers will happily be working on the barn, 2 meters underneath one of the nest boxes, and the birds are just happily sitting on there. As soon as we come into sight, God, we just get shouted at and we get swooped at. They really aren't our biggest fans, but I love them and it's unconditional. So we'll all work it out, I'm sure. It might sound a bit odd, but we do have a set of quite horrifying latex masks that we have been known to use in the past. So there's a particular part of the season where we go night trapping, where you can female birds while they're incubating their chicks. It does draw some interesting looks from passers-by.
Yes.
Why we're doing that at 2 a.m. in a churchyard graveyard in the middle of the night. But
also, what are they doing at 2 a.m. in the middle
Well,
of the
that
night?
is
That's also more worrying.
yeah, that is something to consider as well. I hadn't really thought that. It's just because we're so suspicious that you kind of just go into defence mode as opposed to, maybe I'll ask them next time.
But how is this situation affecting you then? Because you're primarily field-based and all UK field work is cancelled, so I imagine it's affecting you quite a bit.
Yeah, no, it really has. I mean, this is, we're now at the point where our birds in our boxes will be laying eggs, and I would be currently most of the way through my first experiment of the year, but we had to completely abandon that before it started. And we've not been able to do a single bit of monitoring. It's very frustrating because our field sites are only about 5 miles from our houses. It's so close yet so far, but no, we've not been able to do any research at all this year.
Yeah, on the bright side though, I bet these jackdaws are loving it. They've probably got the deck chairs out, sunbathing.
They must be having an absolute party, and they better enjoy it while it lasts, because we'll be back.
So also on Biology from the Bedroom, we also want to talk about times where things haven't gone quite to plan during research. Is this something which you can relate to, Josh?
Yes, there are many. There are very, very many. I'll give you a specific from my mongoose days, which really sticks in my mind. So usually when you go out to do research on the mongooses, because there's a team of us and there's only so many groups, you know where they slept the night before. So if you get to the burrow before they get up,
you pervert.
Less of that, and you can you can run your experiments as you go. Sadly, if you're the first person going to that group in a particular rotation, you have to go and find them. But with this one day, I was looking for this group, and I really needed to get an experiment done with this group. And I've been walking for about 5 hours, round and round in this tiny little patch. It felt like I was going mad. And by this point, it was nearly 40 degrees, and I'd just given up. I'd walked about 20 kilometres in an area the size of 3 football pitches, and I just wanted to. And I sat on a rock, and I put my head in my hands, and I shouted a very naughty word into my hands. At which point, I heard this little, which is mongoose for that sort of ground predator alarm call. I looked up, and there's a mongoose sat maybe 5 feet from me, just on a rock. And it just made me feel like I just had no idea what I was doing.
The animals really aren't on your side, are they, Josh? Really?
They like to make me feel a bit.
Have you thought of telling something else?
Oh, many times, Benito. Many times.
Wood lice, they'll be all right, probably.
Yeah, I feel like they couldn't do me over so badly.
But also on Biology from the Bedroom, we want to put our guests to the test, if that's all right.
Yes,
Josh.
Yes.
We're on a mission to find Britain's most promising young research biologist, and in order to find that out, we need to put you through the Cryptic Question Clock Quiz.
Oh, cryptic question, where's it gonna be? Where's it gonna be? Cryptic question, where's it gonna be? Where's it gonna be? Cryptic question, where's it gonna be? Where's it gonna be?
This is a section of the show where we get our guests to answer as many questions in biology as they can in 1 minute.
Yes.
But there's an added twist, and that is the cryptic question.
Cryptic question, where's it gonna be? Where's it gonna be? Cryptic question, where's it gonna be? Where's it gonna be? Cryptic question, where's it gonna be?
One of the answers to the question I'm about to ask you is also an answer to a question in a non-biology related area. And this week, that area is baking. If you are able to spot the cryptic question, Josh, you must let me know using your signature buzzer. And your buzzer, Josh, shall be the sound of a jay, the bird, cleaning a kitchen table with a jay cloth. Josh, can you give me an indication on what that might sound like, please?
Yes, I can. I'd say,
All right, in that case, your time starts now. Stereotypically, what colour is the fruit of an orange tree?
Orange.
Name 3 species of British mammal.
Beaver, otter, pine marten.
Microscopic reproductive particles released by some fungi are referred to as what?
Spores.
Correct. In molecular biology, what does PCR stand for?
Polymerase chain reaction.
Correct. In what decade did Darwin formalise his ideas on sexual selection in The Descent of Man?
1860s.
Incorrect. Flowering plants are also known by what scientific name?
Angiosperms.
Correct. Crickets and grasshoppers belong to what order of insects?
Odonata.
Incorrect.
Oh.
What is the name of the genus which contains the malaria parasite?
Pass. Oh, man.
Speciation involving trait divergence without a geographical barrier is known by what
Sympatric.
name? Correct. Whoa, that's the end. So at the end of that, Josh,
Yeah.
you got a pretty impressive 6 points,
Oh.
which unfortunately doesn't put you
Alas.
at the top of the leaderboard. The leaderboard
Alas.
is still currently Sam England with 7 points.
Fair play, Sam.
But it does put you in joint second place, I'm pleased to say.
I'll take that. I deserve nothing less for my malaria faux pas.
Unfortunately, you weren't able to deduce the cryptic question.
Oh, what was it?
Obviously. The 5th question I asked you, Josh, was in what decade did Darwin formalise his ideas on sexual selection in The Descent of Man? Mm-hmm. You incorrectly answered the 1860s. The correct answer was the 1870s.
Oh.
Now, the 1870s, of course, was also the decade where the Texan Earl Mitt invented the oven glove.
Oh, of course. How did I...
Oh, never mind, Josh.
I feel a fool.
Never mind. Better luck next time. Except there won't be a next time.
Never mind.
But the quiz doesn't end there, Josh.
Okay.
You see, before we all went into lockdown, I decided to get myself a pet crow, and I've been teaching it various words from the English language, just as part of a little hobby of mine. So, just by listening to this audio clip, are you able to guess what word my pet crow is saying, please?
Is it saying unprecedented, Benito?
Unprecedented.
I feel like that's something you might have taught it. I'm gambling here. It's my final answer.
It's a good guess, but incorrect, unfortunately. The correct answer was the word core.
Oh, of course.
Never mind. But we'll try again.
Okay.
Let's get him to say something else. Right, so from this audio clip, can you tell us what my pet crow is saying, please?
Well, I think there might be a pattern here, so I'm going to go with the word ah.
Ah, is that your final answer?
I think it's going to have to be.
It's a good guess, Josh, but it's incorrect. The correct answer was chiropractor. Never mind.
Oh.
Never mind. He's not so good at doing that one, I don't think.
No, he's trying.
So it's time to end the show, unfortunately, Josh. But if you had a song which you could end the show on, what would that song be and why? Because you never know, we might have copyright permission to it this week.
Oh, I look forward to it. So I'm going to choose a bit of a left field choice. All this thinking about the mongooses has got me thinking back to the time I spent in South Africa, and I'm going to choose the song Scatterlings of Africa by Johnny Clegg and Savuka.
Interesting. Now let me just have a little look. Unfortunately, we don't have copyright permission to that song at the moment.
That's a shame.
Josh, I'm afraid. In fact, we were going to go all out today. We were going to get Sheryl Crow.
Oh,
to
goodness
sing us
me.
out.
That would have been a treat.
I know, but unfortunately, there'd been a murder. Unfortunately, so I did that. Anyway, so instead, we rang up the Cause.
Hey.
Right. But that didn't lead to any great effect, unfortunately. Cause and effect. Anyway. So then, finally, we tried to get hold of Jay Sean. But unfortunately, we didn't, because Jay Sean is rubbish.
Yeah,
but,
well, okay, I see your logic there.
But, luckily, I've managed to train my pet crow to sing the rap version of David Guetta featuring Nicki Minaj's Turn Me On. So we're going to have to deal with that. All right?
I'm intrigued.
We gotta get a crackin' chiropractor.
Oh, yes, he did that really well, actually. The best I've ever seen him do it. But anyway, thank you so much for coming on Biology from the Bedroom, Josh. And best of luck with the rest of your research.
Indeed, and yourself. Stay sane and stay safe.
Join me next time when I'll be putting another ponderous PhD student to the test on Biology from the Bedroom. If you like this podcast, don't forget to subscribe for more wildlife and science-related content. But for now, if you don't mind, I need to introduce my pet crow to Cardi B's extensive music catalogue. See you next time, everybody!